The mobile cinema of Mr. Mescaline. Whether a precocious elementary schooler or a senior about to leave for college, all of us kids in Plainfield found ourselves eagerly counting down the days until Mescaline's mobile cinema rolled back into town. There were no advertisements for it posted anywhere, especially not on the public notice boards at the library or the town hall, nor were specific return dates announced after the last screening. Mr. Mescaline's mobile cinema had no set schedule to calibrate our internal clocks. We would always hear of its return through a tantalizing rumor. Somebody would mention hearing about a showing 2 towns over, which meant our town was coming soon. Or a friend of a friend would insist that Plainfield was next on the circuit, making the upcoming weekend the one we'd all been waiting for. And, without fail, one of those rumors would turn out to be true. We'd all gather in the fields at the edge of town, anticipation building. And there, like clockwork, stood Mr. Mescaline himself, dressed in his tattered top hat and patchwork tuxedo, outside the modified trailer that housed the rarest movie house in the world. We would enter through the back of the trailer if we were among the lucky few to be admitted. Inside, the trailer held a few rows of metal folding chairs welded to the floor, with a narrow aisle stretching down the middle. The chairs faced a stark white wall, onto which a projector dangled from the ceiling, ready to beam whatever film Mr. Mescaline had in store for us. These films were always worth seeing, unlike anything we could find elsewhere. Maybe we were biased, as Plainfield lacked a movie theater, roller rink, arcade, or any entertainment option for kids. Our parents weren't fans of such things, and long after some of us had left Plainfield and seen mainstream movies, we had to admit that nothing could match the excitement of Mr. Mescaline's films. We never knew what to expect. Sometimes they were as short as 10 minutes, while others ran for over 3 hours. We couldn't recognize the actors and actresses on screen, perhaps because we weren't exposed to movie stars through magazines and gossip rags. Most importantly, Mr. Mescaline's films featured non-professional actors who delivered performances so real that you'd think they weren't acting at all. One thing was certain when watching one of Mr. Mescaline's films: somebody was going to die. Their deaths ranged from gory scenes, like machetes to the skull and strategic razor cuts, to cleaner, more mysterious demises, like being grotesquely garroted by a masked figure or twitching after sipping a toxic beverage. Regardless of the method, the deaths felt shockingly authentic, as did the performances leading up to them. That was the chief virtue of Mr. Mescaline's films, their raw, unfiltered reality. Let me just step in here for a second before the unnerving conclusion of today's tale to thank you for stopping by. If you, like me, are a fan of horror, true tales of the unnerving and unexplained, stories of survival and stories of not, then I'd love you to join us again. Please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. And now let's get back to today's tale. We were grateful to Mr. Mescaline for showing us the world as it was meant to be seen, for allowing us to be born anew. We greeted the end of each film with a standing ovation, and Mr. Mescaline, ever humble, would doff his grungy hat and bow. We never told our parents about him, fearing they'd label him a devil, like they had with our trading card games and fantasy anthologies. Mr. Mescaline never charged us admission. All he asked was that we enter his lottery. Each kid admitted into the trailer received a paper raffled ticket with a handwritten number. After the film, Mr. Mescaline would reach into his hat, fish out a slip of paper, and read the number in his soothing voice. For several years, we had no idea what would happen if one held the matching ticket. Then came the night Chris P. won the drawing. Mr. Mescaline reached into his hat as usual, and when he announced the winner, half of us didn't even bother to glance at our tickets. But when Chris raised his hand, it was as if lightning had struck us. This was unprecedented. We started clapping, and Chris stood, nodding politely. Mr. Mescaline congratulated him, but instead of joining us, Chris remained behind. We waited outside the trailer for a long time, but nobody emerged. Eventually, we had to head home. Chris's absence from school didn't surprise us the next day, but when he didn't appear the day after that, we grew perplexed. An entire week passed, and still no sign of Chris. We dared not tell any adults about Chris or the mobile cinema. What would happen if they learned the truth? What would become of us? The night Chris returned to the mobile cinema, something changed. As the projector flickered to life, we saw none other than Chris P. on the screen, shirtless against a concrete wall. We erupted into applause, and Chris looked up at the camera, staring into each of our eyes. He knew we were there, watching. He opened and closed his mouth as if trying to remember lines for a monologue, but he couldn't. He clenched his jaw and fixed his gaze somewhere beyond the camera, looking through us as if we were ghosts. A figure in all black, wearing a black ski mask, entered the frame, chainsaw in hand. Chris murmured something inaudible beneath the chainsaw's whine. The words didn't matter. Chris had us riveted. The figure raised the chainsaw towards Chris's head, and our friend closed his eyes, trembling. The blade lowered, and Chris's head fell to the ground. The figure left the screen, and for a minute and a half the camera lingered on the headless body. The pool of blood widened beneath it. It was the only sign of movement. Then, the screen went black. We realized we had witnessed no ordinary film. It was all too real. Every film we had seen at Mescaline's mobile cinema documented someone's final moments. We understood the price we paid for coming to see these films, and the news settled over us like a fog. We didn't talk about it, because there was nothing to say. We each mulled it over in personal silence, and when we dispersed, all the stars in the sky glowed more brightly. Not one of us has drawn the winning numbers since Chris P. all those years ago, but we continue to attend the screenings. The crowd at the edge of town grows larger each time Mr. Mescaline visits, and the suspense never fades. Hi, I'm Lawrence from VB Dark. Thanks for joining us for today's tale. I do hope you enjoyed it. We'll be posting regular content just like this, so if you're a fan of what we're doing here and would like more stories of the dark, the unexplained, and the truly terrifying, then please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Let us know what you thought of today's tale and anything you'd like us to cover in the future. What's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? Let us know down below. Stay safe, don't trust the shadows, and see you next time.